So two things. I'm going to let Jessica introduce our guests, but I wanted to remind you, those of you who might have forgotten, although I can't imagine who those of you might be, that you have a final thing with those sketchbooks due coming up. If you go to the class website and you go to the class resources page and perhaps you hit the refresh button if this doesn't show up, I have made a video that is, I'm going to say, scintillating. It's up for several major awards, where I walk through the process of making two things that you have to turn in. One is a 40-page PDF that is representing pages from your sketchbook. So there's 40 pages, you turn them into a PDF. You can do that by shooting photographs of them and exporting that PDF through Lightroom or through Adobe Acrobat. I go through both of those methods. That is item number one. It is also mentioned in Word form up here in the assignment description for the journal sketchbook project, where it tells you things like what you should name it, which is important. Otherwise, you're going to name it with all the same name or some random name. We're not going to find it. You'll fail the class. Everything will be sad. The second thing is a single JPEG file of one page from your sketchbook or a spread, meaning two pages facing each other, from your sketchbook that you think is particularly awesome. So PDF of 40 pages and a JPEG of one page. Specs for that JPEG, 3,000 pixels on the long side. Again, I go through that in the video, and it's written down in the Word part. If you have any questions, reach out to one of us after this. Get this to us by end of day Monday. The day ends at 5 o'clock because we are bankers. So 5 o'clock on Monday, these should be in the place where you turn in things to your professors on a weekly basis. So that's that. Again, here, website, class resources, scroll down. Video, if you don't see the video, hit refresh, right above it, written description. All right, and now, so I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, who will introduce our speakers for this week.
Hi, I'm so excited to introduce Rebecca and Nicole from SWAY. They've come a few times to speak to our students, but it's always been virtual. So it's really nice to have them here in person. And they're going to tell you a lot about what they do, but I just want to say just a couple of words before they come up. So they both have an editorial background, worked as photo editors for magazines, and then they came together to start their own photo production company called SWAY. And they started 5 years ago, right? And they work in a wide range of genres. So they work with celebrity, fashion, food, sports, travel, and documentary. And they're based in New York City, and they produce content worldwide, both photographic and video work. So please help me in welcoming Rebecca and Nicole. Very happy to have you.
Definitely a little different than Zoom.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Nicole. I'm Rebecca. Nice to meet you. We won't read through all this. You guys can read it and we can share the presentation with you. Can you hear us if we stand away from the mic? Can everyone in the back hear us? Yeah? Okay. But as Jessica said, we have been a company together for about almost 5 years. But we've worked together much longer. We met working at InStyle Magazine and .com many moons ago, and kind of our paths crisscrossed, and we came together to form SWAY, which is a production company and creative agency. So depending on our client, we will offer them full creative direction, ideation, or we'll just produce content that they already have an idea about.
Yeah, when we were in the magazine world, we had to wear a lot of hats. So it's looking at an article, deciding who should photograph it, making all the travel arrangements, booking their crew, booking the locations, taking care of transportation, everything that goes into production. And, you know, another thing that Rebecca and I really loved was after doing that for like many, many, many years, we had our fingers in so many different pies that we knew a lot of photographers and people who also shoot motion all around the world. So it's been fun to collaborate on all sorts of good stuff.
So we're gonna, I could have gone to this. This is kind of a range of some of the people we've been working for the last couple of years. We are gonna walk through really the nuts and bolts of shoot production for you, because there is a lot that happens before you click the shutter. But a couple of things we wanted to talk to that are really important and almost equally as important as your talent as a photographer. Professionalism, above all, is huge. Respect, kindness, being on time, trusting people you work with, honoring their visions, being collaborative, really listening to people, but speaking up when you have ideas and doing your research, understanding, where everyone's coming from, really the premise of any shoot.
I learned a lot just by listening and watching. So it's great to assist photographers or be a PA on set, or, you can always find another department that you're interested in, whether it's props or hair and makeup, or, assisting a DP in motion, and really just asking polite questions and soaking up as much as you can on set until you kind of understand all the dynamics.
So one of the things that we realized that not a lot of students know is really the difference between editorial and advertising. We hear a lot of people say, oh, I would love to shoot for Vogue. I would love to shoot for the New York Times Magazine. And those are all great things, but there are pluses and minuses to both. Editorial, while you get that great name, someone you've worked for, they usually have a really small budget. That's the biggest downside to editorial. Really small budget, really short turnaround time. But you often have a lot more autonomy in the creative. You get access to people, talent, subjects. It's great for portfolio building and for building relationships with other people in the industry.
Advertising, you may have a larger budget depending on what your client. We're, of course, being asked to squeeze more and more deliverables, whereas maybe 5 years ago we would have said, no, we can only shoot 10 still life photos in a day. Now we can go, oh yeah, we can get through 30. You're sometimes asked to really do a lot. And your clients are expecting something specific. You have to match their creative. So hopefully you can bring your own style and ideas to it, but there's already a campaign or already a look and feel that you'll have to sort of find your way to shoot. You will have many layers of approvals and have to manage expectations. We want to just take you through some of what we do in production to put bigger shoots together. COVID compliance, we are unfortunately still dealing with that. Rebecca and I are both COVID coordinators. It depends on the state, but we often, I would say 98% of the time, have a medic on set who's testing everyone rapid tests for COVID. If you can't afford that, PCR tests are free, and now there's also those at-home COVID kits. The government's supposed to help us, hopefully, pay for those, but we have used those as well. And a compliance officer just makes sure that everyone's distanced, masked, that there's ventilation, and that everyone is comfortable. As soon as we see somebody done eating, we ask them to put their mask back on. And especially in states like California, there are lots of rules and regulations, and they change all the time, so we always have to make sure we're up to date.
And in California, because most of the places require permits to test, they do come and check that you're managing everything. And as Nicole said, I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I imagine a lot of these COVID compliance rules will be with us. Hopefully not the masks, but I think, you know, keeping touch points clean and making sure people are vaccinated. I think those things will be with us for a while. So the images, this kind of story that we're going to walk you through is a holiday campaign we did last year for T-Mobile. This was still photography that ran, that was in their stores, big signs in their stores, billboards in Times Square, a lot of really fun places. This was what the client provided to us originally. This was their mood board. This was the kind of photography they wanted, how they plan on using it. You can see the top left image there. So they gave this to us as direction so that we could go out and source a photographer for them who could photograph like this. This was really interesting because it was shot late last summer. So in the height of COVID, we actually sourced photographers by who their families were, because their families and friends, people that were in their COVID bubbles, were their models. We needed to keep everyone safe. We couldn't cast.
So when we reached out to photographers, we said, I think it was 2 years ago, this campaign.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I think it was 2019 when really the world was still pretty much still in lockdown. So we requested pictures of their kids, their grandparents, anyone that they would feel comfortable photographing.
So once you get a creative idea from a client, you source a photographer. We had photographers we like. The next step is putting together a budget. Dream world, the client comes to you and tells you exactly how much money they have to spend. Then you know how to budget and make that fit. Unfortunately, more often than not, they say, we don't know how much it'll cost, you tell us. And then there is a back and forth of, oh, that's way too high. So on the left, you'll see, and again, we'll share this with you because I know, actually you might be able to read it up there. It's big.
We were happy with this number.
That was a good number.
The six-figure number is always nice to see, and it doesn't always happen. So, but within that number, we had to shoot multi-day shoots with talent in 3 different cities, and also include, I think, up to 60 deliverables. So it was still a lot to get together in a short amount of time, and it was in 2020. One thing I think that nobody ever talks about is money, and I think we're always happy to kind of be transparent about that. We ask our clients if there's a budget. If one person's idea of a good budget might be $15,000, another person's might be $300,000. So it really varies, and our jobs go from doing advertising for, I don't know, small job, couple $1,000.
Startup makeup brand, woman made in her back basement, versus a T-Mobile. So the range is really great for what they're asking for might be exactly the same, but what they are willing and able to spend is going to be very much different. So on the left, you'll see those are all of the things that you have to take into an account, and sometimes more things than this, but this is kind of a good starting list. When you look at a total number, you have to figure out how you're going to get people, what crew you need, make sure your crew is paid well, how you're going to get people to the locations, how you dress the locations, who the models are, insurance, COVID compliance, feeding everybody, very important, happy.
So sometimes a client will give you a number, sometimes you have to do an estimate, and oftentimes advertising agencies do triple bids. They're asking 3 different photographers for their bids to see who will give the lowest number. And so we always want to be competitive, but also make sure that people get fairly compensated.
So this job, as we said, it was an advertising job, and it was very specific. The client had very specific ideas of what they wanted to see. That's not to say they didn't appreciate some input from the photographers that we used, but they know their client better than anyone else. So this was a casting spec that we were given. As you can see, they were, again, really specific about age, ethnicity, how they wanted those people to be portrayed. So then we had to proceed with casting. And I think this is where we ended up.
Yep.
On that job.
Yep. Part of our job was to also like put a deck together for all the clients. You have before the shoot what's often called a pre-pro meeting or a pre-production call. So you'll go through everything. And we try and make sure that we have the shoot as well produced as we can before it starts so that when we're on set, we can really concentrate on everything that needs to get done in those 10 hours or 12 hours.
And just for casting, we do a really broad range. As I said, for part of this job, we did photographers' families, we go to modeling agencies, we cast on Instagram, we sometimes send out someone on the street to just talk to people on the street. Harder in COVID, but still possible. So there are many ways to find subjects to shoot.
We got this in our brief with the location specs. And then it's our job often to take this and say, how are we visualizing this? Where can we actually shoot where we could get an urban balcony interiors and, a suburban driveway? Is that 2 different days? We have to figure out sort of the run of show and how we're going to manage.
So this one, the urban balcony in particular, we were shooting in Los Angeles. We couldn't find a balcony, and the reference they showed us was directly across from the balcony. But they wanted it up high. There's no way to shoot that unless we rent out the building across the street too and shoot from there because cherry pickers weren't. So it was managing their expectations about what we could do that was an alternative to that. As you can see, this was kind of their idea, but
they wanted 2 balconies with a string of lights, and all the balconies we found in LA were 10 feet apart. So we were like, do we need to stitch those together in post? Do we just concentrate on one balcony, or do we, fingers crossed, get them to drop the shot and make our lives easier?
What happened?
We dropped the shot.
We dropped the shot.
Yahoo!
So as you can see the picture on the right here, this is kind of what the balconies looked like.
It was all stucco buildings. It wasn't cool New York City iron balconies.
And yeah, it was impossible to get. We would have had to pay each of those apartments because we were going to see all of them. It was a lot. Moving on. So yes, we dropped the shot, but it was a lot of back and forth. We had to try and give the client what they wanted. So wardrobe, did we skip the slide? No. So wardrobe, similarly, the client gave us direction. We did a fitting ahead of time. This client was very particular and knew exactly what they wanted, had very specific tastes, and we had a lot of shots on the shoot day, so we did a fitting the day before. The models came in, they tried on 20 different outfits, we sent pictures to the client, and they made their selects from there. So that's kind of what fitting looks like.
This was a shot, you'll see on the left, the photographer we were working with hired a storyboard artist to help the client sort of envision what the final shot was going to be like. And from there, once that got approved, we had our prop stylist sort of describe how they were actually going to build it. This was supposed to be a fort that a kid built, so it wasn't supposed to look perfect. And you'll see in the next slide the finished product. So it was like packing peanuts and a little fort that looks like a dad and a kid could have built.
So those are all the steps that kind of go really in the weeks before a shoot. And those involve a lot of people. It's your prop stylist, your wardrobe stylist, your hair and makeup, all of those people. As producers, we also have to figure out the schedule of the day. As you saw from that original shot list, it was very robust and lots of different things. So we had to really figure out the order of the day, how long we had for each shot, who needed to be where when. So on the left is an example of our schedule. As you can see, we're working with 12-hour shoot days. And then on the right, super tiny, but that's the call sheet. So that's every single person that was on set, or I think some of the people in the right-hand column were on.
You can't really see it, but it was
it was a lot of people.
Production people, the 6-person photo team, all the prop stylists and the wardrobe stylist and the assistant wardrobe and the hair and makeup team, and everyone was stationed in trailers. So it's our job to sort of manage all of that.
And then we did have the client zoom in, so they weren't there. Now it's actually coming back where you'll have clients on set. I was on a shoot recently that had 11 people from the client on set, which is the most I've had since before COVID. It's a lot of extra people that you have to find space for and keep happy during the day.
For this particular project, we were also hired to oversee the post-production and make sure that the color and retouching and everything was that we delivered exactly what the client wanted. Normally, we'll go through 2 rounds of retouching and then deliver the finals. Do you want to talk about?
Sure. So that was a still photography shoot for T. Rowe Price.
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile.
Wrong client.
Sorry. So another thing that's happening a lot now, and I'd say, to be honest, I'd say probably 70% of our jobs this past year have been motion, not still. Of the still jobs, I'd say at least half, if not more, have had some kind of motion component. So we tell photographers who don't necessarily shoot video we hate to tell you this, but it is something you have to learn. But you don't have to do it yourself. You can be a director and work with a DP or have an assistant who shoots the motion. There are ways to do it, but you should be familiar with motion and be able to talk about it with a client and assemble a team who can help you deliver it. So this photographer is amazing and didn't have very much motion. She had done GIFs. She didn't have very much motion in her book, but she totally talked the talk. She did a lot of research to find a DP, a director of photography, who could film in her style and would be willing to take lighting direction from her. And I'll just play it.
I don't know if you could read it. It says it's time to set boundaries again. Reclaimed 6 to 7 is the happiest hour. So we wanted that 6 o'clock light and those shadows. And we find that we really love having photographers shoot motion. It's usually less expensive than a lot of directors will charge for the client. So for budgets, it's helpful. But I feel like photographers can work with a DP or a cinematographer on really refining that light and usually, speak the same visual language. So they may not know all the terms. They may not know, okay, we need a slider to come over here, but they'll say, I need the camera to move around. And then it'll be that cinematographer's job to figure out how to do that.
And as you can see, her stills are on the left. The motion matched her style to a T, and lo and behold, she's a director now, and she's doing tons of motion for other clients. It was a great,
and this job has gotten her a ton of other cocktail jobs. So this photographer is pretty young.
Hang on, it wants to go through again.
So we love working with new talent. We love finding new talent. Part of what happens on set is sort of making sure that you have a plan B. So let's say you have an outdoor shoot, it's been set for 3 weeks, and you have a rain day. You may have talent or clients fly in that you still need to shoot on the day. So you need to have contingency plans, and you need to handle it calmly and what should I say? You need to make it work. So it's finding those creative solutions to make it work. having backup, being flexible. You may have a subject. We were shooting this Victoria's Secret model once, and she was like nauseous the whole day. And I was just like, we're not gonna get all the shots we wanted, and that's gonna have to be okay. We can only do, you can only do so much. But it's good to sort of think in advance, what am I gonna do if this happens? What am I gonna do if I only have 1 hour to shoot instead of the 5 hours I was promised? Sometimes you have to hustle. And another one of our favorite sayings is, you fake it till you make it. Somebody sometimes asks us if we know how to do something, and we always say yes. We always say yes, and we'll take care of it. And then we huddle and
Meanwhile, one of us
we're like, what are we gonna do? But we keep calm, we stay focused, and we try and present ourselves like, yes, that's gonna happen. We'll take care of it. And then we figure out how to do it.
I think this also goes back to some of the things we talked about at the very beginning, the professionalism, collaboration, respect. If things go wrong, if you are really professional and respectful to your whole team, they'll pull together and help you figure it out. Sometimes, this shoot in particular, this one here, the actress had gotten off a plane and was getting on another plane and was just over it. She didn't want to wear any of the clothes. She didn't want to do anything. You can see photographer looks thrilled, but the woman kind of standing in the back looking at the photographer, she was the wardrobe stylist. She just came to him and said, look, I'm sitting in the dressing room with her. She likes these 3 looks. I can get her to put them on. We just have to, she came to him with what the solution was, because he was pleasant to work with and nice, and he wasn't barking orders or falling apart, but she helped him come up with a solution. It really is, yes, you are the photographer. Yes, you are, it is your vision, but it takes a village. It's one of those things that it does take a lot of people to create some of this work.
People sometimes ask how we get jobs, how do we find jobs? Rebecca freelanced at how many,
Probably 30 different magazines. I don't think 30 different magazines exist anymore, but everything that sold it, I worked at.
So, I worked at InStyle for 12 years, and then I went over to Condé Nast, and we met so many people, whether it's from my first job in New York when I was 22, and I worked at a photo stock library, and it was boring as hell, but I still know great creative. My husband worked there as a retoucher. Now, obviously, 25 years later, we're still together, so that's good. But you meet people everywhere. You meet people all throughout your life. You guys might form connections here and find that you're going to work together when you're professionals. So you meet people all over the place, and you do have to put yourself out there. You do have to say, yes, I'm a photographer. I love to shoot landscapes. If you ever have, a job like that, I'd love to do it. Be positive, stay in touch with people. It used to be that we'd edit people's online portfolios. And now everyone looks at Instagram, and it's really annoying.
Not to you guys, just to us.
We miss looking at books, we miss looking at prints, but that is kind of your public persona and portfolio in a lot of ways now.
And I think as a new photographer, it's a good idea to reach out. Keep all your social media professional and clean, make sure it's your vision and your voice. But reach out, brands that you're interested in, whether it's a magazine or a fashion brand or a nonprofit you'd love to work for, whatever it is, go on LinkedIn, go on social media, find out who the creative directors are, find out who the marketing people are, reach out, show them your work. I think, I can only speak for Nicole and I, but I think this must be true of most people who hire photographers. We love, love, love looking at work. We love it. And I think most of the people also like working with new people. We, of course, have our favorites. We have, the 5 photographers we would work with every day if we could. But we like new blood, and we like, a new approach and seeing different ideas.
And we've been doing the portfolio reviews at FIT for years, and we've been teaching, and we have hired students.
We have hired students.
So reach out to us. Feel free to put the feelers out. You know, we hear from lots of different people about jobs or opportunities or little jobs, you know, that great ways to get your sort of foot in the door.
Yeah, and I think another thing is just as you're reaching out, make sure your personality is there. I'm not going to show this video because it makes me cringe. It might make Nicole cringe too. This is a video that Nicole and I made. It's on our website, so you can see it when we're not in front of you. Nicole and I, when we first started Sway, we'd worked separately for years. We didn't have a body of work together. We didn't know what we were as a company. No one knew us. So we made this video just kind of introducing us. A friend of ours did it for like no money, and she, you know, with no direction, she just kind of did it. And we put it on our website, and to this day, 5 years later, every time we're thinking we're gonna take it down, somebody says to us, oh my God, I saw your video, I feel like I know you guys, I saw it and knew I wanted to work with you. So I think the personality is important, the work is important, the most important. But knowing who you are, especially some of these shoots, as you can see, it's a 12-hour shoot day and weeks of pre-production and post-production. You're going to be interacting with these people. They want to know they're going to enjoy working with you because we're not, you know, ER doctors. What we do should be enjoyable.
Another thing I was going to say, I just slipped out of my mouth.
Oh no, you do that. I talk over her.
No. Okay, keep going.
I think that's everything we had. Nicole will think of it and bust in, but does anyone have anything else they want us to talk about or have questions about?
Rebecca just shot Madonna.
Madonna and Maluma, it reminded me of why I don't really like to be celebrity anymore.
Up here?
Yes.
Sure.
And Jessica, you can send this link around to everyone as well.
Do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to see that again.
Okay.
Also, can you go to the next slide?
Yeah, editorial rates, like I started in magazines in 2000, and it's the exact same rates that, right?
Yeah, it hasn't
You
changed.
shot editorial, it's like, you know, the assistant rate is still the
Hardly
same, and rates are low. And whether it's Patrick DeMarche shooting or, you know,
Yeah.
whoever, they're often real low.
I
So sometimes we try not to ever pay for a shoot out of our pocket. We want all of the costs to be covered. If somebody asked you to shoot for free, I would say, sorry, you know, I need to pay my assistants and I need to, you know, get paid for this usage. So, you know, somebody might say, I have $1,000 all in. It's better than nothing. It's totally up to you whether you want to take that or not.
I think we always say.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just, you guys talked about all the sort of stuff that goes into like the pre-production and all the legwork that happens before the shoot. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of what turnarounds are for deliverables, right? Because I think a lot of us are like, oh, okay, you know, I got the shoot on like this day, and don't think about like all the stuff that happens to happen between like having made the shot and then figuring out what happens after that.
For post-production, you know, to be honest, it really ranges. Sometimes you'll need to have retouch files. Sometimes
You need to edit the same day.
the creative will sit at the digital text computer and pick their pictures. It needs to go into retouching, and they'll need a final file the next day. We have this motion project that we shot like 8 months ago that's still not done. So that happens too. It is one of the things that was a very good point. It's something you should make sure you're aware of at the very beginning. What are the deliverables? How many final images or videos are you expecting, and when are they due? If you don't, then you might end up, you know, with I need 60 retouch files in a week, or I need, you know, 12 social media videos and they need to be cropped 11 different ways. And also, you know, you have to know that stuff in advance. I was gonna make one budget point really quick though, sorry. there are jobs that you do that are going to make you money, and there are jobs that you do for love or joy of them. Ideal world, all jobs are both, but they're not. So as Nicole said, you really have to, decide based on the project. Oh, it's Madonna. I'll photograph Madonna for free. That's not a problem as long as my team gets paid. Like if you want to do that, that's on you. But you should never ever pay to shoot anything. It should never be coming out of your pocket.
You had a question?
Yeah, does your company offer internships, especially for like videographical work?
Especially
Sure.
for what?
Like videography.
Yeah.
We do. We don't normally have a full-time internship, but we do use interns on a project basis. You'll see.
And if anyone ever wants to PA and go on set with us, we're always happy to have people come and learn and assist. Yeah?
Our email is there. You guys can email us.
Oh yes, we do curate photography. It's like we wear a lot of hats just because we love photos. So we've done a lot of archival work. We did Justin Timberlake's book Hindsight with him. He's really cool because he bought out every photographer that's ever shot him and owns all of his images. So like Ryan McGinley shot his last album cover, and we could use the whole set. Or he made a movie with Jonathan Demme and owns the rights to the film. So a lot of celebrities are really trying to control their images more than ever. Rebecca could talk about Iris's book.
Do you want to click through this and find some of our books?
Oh, we could go up here.
I don't think it's there. Oh, there it is. It is. It's right there.
Oh, we did a book.
Yeah, so we do photo curation, which means finding photos from existing stock archives like Getty Images. Sometimes it's photographer archives. This is the kind of thing that we do for books as well as for video sometime, advertising. This one in the middle is a book we did on Black supermodels. Iris Apfel's book there on the right is her first kind of memoir book, and it was a really cool combination of photographs, existing photographs of her, illustration. I got to sit on her kitchen floor and go through like all of these photographs that her husband took of her in the 50s and 60s.
We do books for like, Jill Lepore, who's a Harvard professor who needed historical images cleared. I want to also just touch briefly, I remember what I wanted to talk about. Contracts. Nobody ever reads their contracts. If you, let's say, are doing a job for Rolling Stone, read the contract.
Every contract, even if it's 40 pages, read every word.
Read your contracts, because people will just say, oh, sign here, and they will own the copyright to your images. There's a system called Upwork, and I accepted some job from our client HP in it, not knowing that the contract said, we will own all this work for eternity, basically. I didn't even know it was a contract. It was like so sneaky. It was
Don't click accept on anything. Don't click anything without reading it.
Retain the rights to your work. There's something called usage, which means, hey, if I want to use that picture of Iris for this book, I'm licensing it just to use on this book. I don't own the picture. I'm paying for a certain amount of terms, like 2 years usage on 30,000 copies. If it goes beyond that, they want to do another printing, that would be an additional fee. So, I would encourage everybody to really read contracts well, and most places will hopefully negotiate. So I know even when I worked at Condé Nast, I was in a million meetings because they wanted every single image to be cleared for everything. And, when you're paying a photographer $500 to shoot for the day, you're not paying them enough to own their work. So read those carefully.
Randomly, this picture of the televisions, we actually produced the shoot to shoot the still photographs of all of these humongous 90-inch televisions. While we were on set, the creative directors were talking about the images that would go on the screens on packages. And they kind of found out that we did photo research. We knew the brand so well at that point that they hired us to do that portion of it as well. And I think it was this photographer, or maybe one of the other ones, actually emailed me today because we had licensed the images for 3-year use, and the 3 years is up. You might have to take that picture down.
Okay. Yeah.
I just want to talk a little bit more about casting, which I think is interesting that you said you don't just go to agencies. Sometimes you might have to find people off the street. And
Yeah.
you did a nice job of actually finding an edgy ballerina.
An edgy ballerina.
Certain ethnicity, which is complicated.
Yes.
So how do you find people inside the box, outside the box?
I'm going to show this new campaign, maybe. We just did this job. The Daring is actually a vegan chicken company. They make fake chicken that you can find in Whole Foods. We were asked to find daring people in New York for these portraits, which were really beautifully photographed by Ike and Idiani. We shot this in Brooklyn, so we were looking for vegan activists in New York who were available on a certain day and a certain amount of time. Most of these people work for nonprofits. We hired a casting director who specifically deals with real people casting. And he
I don't know how he does it, to be honest.
is like a marvel.
Magical, but this goes back to just networking is really helpful. I think if you have, model agents are like that too. When they have new people that they want photographed, they're more inclined to help you out with people and passing on new names so that people can get portfolios.
So if we didn't have him, what I would do is just start emailing people like crazy. Think urban garden, a food bank, or City Harvest, or I started texting friends, do you know any vegan people who are daring? And my friend Hal was like, oh, John Barrett? Is it
John Barrett, yeah.
Old designer, lives upstate now, and there was like, John is vegan, he has he helps animals, he does this. He wanted to do it, but we ended up just casting people who worked in the food industry.
Yeah, I know we also emailed the former editor-in-chief of InStyle magazine, who Nicole worked with for 13 years, and his husband works in education and starts all of these programs. So he was another one. He's like, oh, he knows everyone, so we thought we'd ask him. He's like, you should photograph my husband. He'd be perfect for this. It's just, be nice to everybody, because you never know when you're going to need them, and you're going to want them to want to work with you.
But you wouldn't think that we had a really lovely day. Like, nice portraits would be needed for a vegan chicken company. It's like, you never know where these jobs will take you. What else? Anyone have any other questions? Yeah?
What did both of you major in college?
Oh, good question.
I was a journalism major. My kids always say you don't use that, but it's not true. We tell stories. Even when it's a single photograph, we tell stories. So I think I use it more now that we do video, and we do a lot of documentary style videos, so I'm definitely using it more. But I always loved photography. I moved to New York like moments out of college and was looking for a job. And actually
Where did you graduate?
I graduated from Marquette in Wisconsin, and the company where Nicole met her husband was actually my first New York job as well, a couple years after she was there, but we had the same first New York City job. It was a stock agency. I came to New York and I met with I didn't know what stock photography was. I shot for the college paper. So I knew I liked photography. I knew I liked magazines. And so I kind of fell into it. I didn't have to assist, which was nice.
I was an arts management major and a photography minor at Emerson. And I also moved to New York City not knowing what the heck I was going to do. And I was too afraid to assist or shoot on my own. My mom drilled into me that I needed a job. So I worked at agencies. I eventually moved to an agency which represented, I was a studio manager for a while in Soho. That was interesting. And then I ended up working at an agency that represented celebrity and music photographers, and including Mick Rockridge's dad. So I ended up meeting all these people at magazines through that, who hired these photographers and who wanted their archival work. And a magazine ended up hiring me from there.
Yeah, and I I worked in the Time Life archive, the old Life magazine archive, as a researcher. That was maybe 2 years after I moved to New York, and Nicole at InStyle was one of my clients, and when she needed a freelancer, she asked me to come work for her there, so that's how we met. She was my boss first.
Now she's my boss.
Only 2 days a week.
Yeah. I encourage everybody to just shoot. We love seeing personal work. If you have a website and you think, okay, here's school assignments and stuff, even if it's pictures of your family or pictures that you've taken traveling, we really like seeing work that feels personal to you, and edit it, but don't be afraid to share a bunch of it. And if you guys want to reach out to us, feel free. This was so nice.
Thank you